So growing up with a narcissistic parent, your parents made living and surviving way worse than it needed to be. They made living difficult, and they forced you to survive, and you stressed yourself out and struggled just trying to survive. And why should we have had to be forced to survive in our very own household with our parents when our parents were supposed to make sure that we had everything that we needed to live? But when you're dealing with narcissistic parents do not want to give you everything you need and things that you want. They give you the bare minimum. They barely give you what you need. They barely give their children what they need. They barely even give the children things that they want. So the child is sitting here struggling financially, struggling to have money in their pocket. And another issue is that sometimes a narcissistic parent will not give their kids allowance money or just money just to have in their pockets. And at the same time, they won't even allow the child to work and have their own job when they're old enough to. Once they become a teenager and they want to work and have a job, they won't even let the child work or get a job. And then once again, they're complaining about the child not having any money when the parent themselves are not giving the child any money. So make it make sense. It's just a big web of confusion. I'm confused as to why you don't give me money. I'm confused as to why you don't want me to get a job. And I'm confused as to why you're bitching and moaning at me because I don't have any money when you're not even allowing me to have the resources to get my own money. You're not providing for it and you're trying to block me from providing it for myself. Make it make sense. What the fuck is the problem? And it's because narcissistic parents do this because they want their children to suffer the same way they suffered. I kid you not. One day I had a conversation with my narcissistic dad when I was a teenager, and he said clear out of his mouth, "Why should I give my children a good childhood when I didn't have a good childhood? Because that's not fair. It's not fair that my kids would have a good childhood when I didn't have a good childhood. It was a lot of us. We struggled. So I didn't have a good childhood. Why should I give my kids a good childhood? No, my kids gonna suffer the way I did. They gonna see what it feels like. They gonna know what it's like to struggle. And then they'll be able to see what it's like to live in this world. I'm not making it easy on them because it wasn't made easy on me." And right then and there, my dad revealed how he truly was. A fucking pathetic fucking cunt. He's literally a fucking cunt, bro. Because why the fuck are you making your children's lives miserable when you don't have to? So at that point, it shows he chose to make his children's life miserable. He chose to make his children's life stressful. He chose to have his children struggle because he could have provided, but he chose not to. He could have been more kinder, but he chose violence. He chose aggression. He could have made sure that his kids had everything they needed and wanted, but he chose not to. He chose to not provide. He chose to be neglectful. He chose to abandon them. He chose to abandon us all. So how the fuck can you honor a father and look at him as a father when he didn't even do his job as a father? He was physically present, but emotionally distant and very nasty and abusive. And he wants all of this utmost respect when he checked out of his job as a father long ago and chose the job of a father to instead be an abuser and make his kids pay the price for what he went through. It's not his children's fault that he was abused and he didn't have a good childhood. We weren't even born yet. So why make his children suffer? Because he cannot make his parents suffer. He has to take his anger out on somebody. And specifically my dad, both of his parents are deceased. Both of his parents have passed away, so he cannot give that energy to his parents. He can only give the energy to other people that are around. And because he's hasn't dealt with his grief and he's so bitter and angry about his life and his childhood, he wants to make his children's lives a struggle when it doesn't have to be this way. That's unnecessarily stressful when it doesn't have to be. And this is going to be the same motherfucking man that when he's old and he's sick and he is gravely ill, he's going to expect and feel entitled to his children coming and taking care of him. He's going to feel expectancy of his children coming and making sure that he is fed and bathing him and changing his diapers or whatever the case has to be, and cleaning his house and doing errands for him, he's going to expect it. But he's the same exact type of man that if you do things for him, he feels entitled to your help. He will not ask, he will demand. He will say, I need this, I need this. I need you to get me this. I need you to do that. Instead of, can I have this? Can you get me this? Can you please do this? May you? Doesn't ask, demands. And I guarantee you the last days of that man's life, he will still be abusive. He will still be mean. He will still be nasty. That man will go to his grave being a fucking dick to everybody. And I am not about to sit up there and deal with him during his last days just because I'm his daughter. Me being his daughter never meant a fucking thing to him. It never meant anything to him. And you may feel the same way, that you being your parents' child didn't mean anything to them. You are their daughter, you are their son, their child. If you go gender non-binary, you being their child meant nothing to them. They looked at you like, they looked at us like we were just such an inconvenience. They looked at us like we were nothing but a nuisance to them. They looked at us like we were just a burden. They looked at us like we were not important. They looked at us as if we were just a burden in the way. They looked at us as if we were just an extra stressor. They could not, they looked at us as if our existence bothered them so much to a point where it drove them to bitterness. And it's all because they're resentful at the fact that they had us when they could not have had us to begin with. But why agree to bring a child into this world that you don't even want, just to abuse them, just to be mean to them, just to neglect them and abandon them and make them feel so unwanted and unloved? Why the fuck are you a parent? Why the fuck did you bring a child into this world? And why the fuck should that child ever respect you and honor you? And the thing is, there are so many things that a narcissistic parent will do behind closed doors when other family members are not present. And that's why it's always the parent's word against the child's word. It's always your word against theirs. Because so much abuse that the scapegoat child especially has gone through at the hands of their narcissistic parent are things that other siblings have not witnessed. They have witnessed some of that abuse, but they stood back in silence because they didn't want to be the one to be the next one to get abused. And so much has also happened when the other parent or the other siblings weren't around. I can remember some of the worst experiences that I've had with my dad. It was when it was just him and I. No one else was around to hear how loud he screamed at me, to hear how he told me I'm not smart. I don't even understand how you got into a private high school when I didn't even think that you were smart enough to get in. I don't even think you're smart enough to do the work. And just telling me how he doesn't think I'm smart. He thinks I'm an idiot. He thinks I'm stupid. Just all of this bullshit when my mother wasn't around or my siblings weren't around. But when I tell these things and I say and express things that he has said, it makes my siblings and my other parent and other people just so flabbergasted. They're so astonished, and it's almost unbelievable to them. They don't want to believe that a person could say such horrific things to their own child. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, they don't give a fuck about nobody. They don't even give a fuck about their child. My parents never wanted me. When my mom went and told my dad that she was pregnant with me, my dad got pissed at her and got mad at her and told her, "You done went and got pregnant again?" As if it was her fault, as if she was the only one that did it. This wasn't no fucking immaculate conception. She's not the Virgin Mary. It takes two to tango. He's the one that ejaculated. He's the one that, fertilized her egg. He's the one that helped her conceive, but he wants to blame it all on her. And because my dad had so much resentment towards my mom because of her getting pregnant with me, my mom had that resentment as I was growing in her womb, and I was born with that resentment that she had towards me. Now she resents me because my dad resented her, and now the both of them resent me. So I grew up where neither one of my parents wanted me. Neither one of them truly loved me unconditionally. They love me with condition. They love me when I'm under their control. They don't. But how am I the one that's wrong because I'm bringing this out to the forefront and I'm exposing them for who they are when they put me through so much bullshit that I almost took my fucking self out of here. But with the grace of God, I'm still here.